to the Coach V Show, your show for personal and professional development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life. In which case, on this particular show, your boy Matt Schneider and Coach V is going to be offering to you life lessons, success frameworks, and behavioral models so that you can consider into applying into your life leadership and business. Here on Island City, where the beach meets the streets, and on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. Our guest this evening is Mr. Matt Schneider, who is coming up on 15 years of marriage. 15 years as of June. He has an 11-year-old son who is the pride of he and his wife, and a 3-year-old German Shepherd named Raqqa. Shout out to Raqqa. Graduated high school in Idaho Falls, a place that my wife and I've been doing business the last few years, and driving through Idaho Falls every single time, going to the Yellowstone.
Oh yeah,
Right? Yellowstone. I always get Yellowstone and Yosemite a little bit mixed.
Yellowstone. Yeah,
Yep. Following high school, he self-sponsored into this police academy and graduated in 2001. Following the police academy, moved to Boise, Idaho, to attend college at the Boise State University. Shout out Broncos. Graduated with a degree in psychology. 2006, hired by the Ada County Sheriff's Office in Boise, Idaho. Over 10 years with the agency. Served as a detention deputy, patrol deputy, SWAT operator for 5 years, task force officer known in LEO or law enforcement terms as TFO with the Marshals, U.S. Marshals Office, and he was also an undercover narcotics detective. In 2013, opened forward movement training and advanced special operations and civilian self-defense training facility. He sold that company in 2019 after growing the company, and he was ready to transition. Met up and got hooked up with his brother, hired by Bedros Keuilian in 2019 to join the team at the Fit Body Bootcamp headquarters, where he is the executive director of franchise development. Under his jurisdiction is franchise operations, compliance, sales, and marketing. FBBC is among the fastest growing franchises in the country. He is also the instructor of the Modern Day Night MDK Project, a 75-hour full immersion men's personal development program. It is an extremely extensive program designed to help men break through their mediocrity and start to fulfill their fullest potential so that they can start living a life of impact, significance, pride, and fulfillment. Welcome to the show, everybody, and I'm honored, I am blessed, and I'm excited to have my brother on here from the 208, originally, now in my area of the 909 Southern California, Mr. Matt Schneider. Matt, welcome to the show, brother.
thank you, Coach V. It's an honor to be here, my dude. Thanks for having me.
Man, bro, it is my pleasure to have a person of your level coming from an industry that I already highly respect, working with, LAPD, the Idaho State Police, Meridian Police Department, United States Secret Service. I know I've been in those meetings, how hard that is. So I respect you there. I met you in a conference that I happened to be speaking at. I think it was the Meridian Chamber of Commerce event, maybe 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah, as Entrepreneur of the Year, I think,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So we crossed paths there. We stayed in touch since. I called you about coming on the show, and we talked about that earlier. Now we are here. Welcome to the show, Matt Schneider, and tell us your Genesis point. Say hello.
Let's go. Happy to be here, man.
Yep. And what is your Genesis point? So we talked about Idaho Falls. Every time I cruise by right off the freeway, my family and I pull over and have get our Starbucks right there off the freeway, right next to the Olive Garden. There,
Yeah,
shout out Idaho Falls. You know where that is.
that's right. Yeah.
So, what is your Genesis point, and what is the start? Where were you born? And just tell us that story. Even though I've already mentioned it, talk to us about that, Matt, please.
Yeah, man. So I was born in Southern California, moved around a lot. I My mom was a serial uh, uh, marriager, I guess you might call it.
Yeah, yeah,
She,
yeah.
she went through this cycle of having quite a few marriages. To this point, I haven't met anybody that's beat the record of that I hold in my family, which she's on her ninth divorce currently.
Right?
So that that process of the revolving door led us all around Southern California. So I got well adjusted to starting anew. Eventually, when I was about 14 years old, moved up to Idaho Falls and went to junior high school there, and then graduated from Skyline in 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. At the time of graduation, I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. But I did have a buddy that was a police officer, and he was cool enough to take me out for a ride and show me around. And um, based on that ride along, nothing really of significance happened. But I did I did for the first time come to understand the kind of relationship that police officers had within the community and
Right.
the responsibilities they were tasked with, and it really spoke to me. Uh, and so I started looking at what that profession might entail, and found that at Idaho State University they had a 9-month uh, program there that essentially you would go to as a student, pay for. You would get patrol certified and detention certified, and then upon graduation you would be certifiable, which
Mhm.
would mean that an agency wouldn't have to pay to send you to the actual academy, which is just a huge benefit. Interestingly enough, everybody remembers where they were when 9/11 happened.
Right.
And for those of us that were around old enough, we could tell you exactly where we were, what we're doing. I was in the academy. And so that was a really interesting time to be, getting involved with law enforcement, seeing firsthand our country being attacked and so many first responders perishing that day. That was a monumental moment for all of us. And I was in the academy when it happened. So you fast forward to 2002 or 2001, where I graduated, moved to Boise State, continued the schooling, and then in 2006, I was picked up by the sheriff's office. Wanted to go to patrol. That's where every episode of Cops is filmed. That's where every little boy and girl's dream of being out in law enforcement is, driving the cars and arresting bad guys and taking them off the streets so everybody could be safer. But where the agency needed help was in the jail. So I spent about a year, just over a year in the jail, essentially just focused on, being an adult babysitter, essentially keeping the peace in there. Um, and it was probably that time in the jail that I realized for the first time in my life that if you're willing to work hard for something and you're willing to stand out amongst the rest and do the thing that so many other people will only talk about but not do,
Mm.
uh, then that pays off. And I learned that because I wanted to go to patrol, but I was around others that had this long, lived passion to go to patrol, but yet they were continued to be passed up time and time again when they would test for it. And so I just committed to just take that time and learn and grow. As you can imagine, to be hired for law enforcement, there's not a I didn't have a real solid understanding of the criminal mindset. You can't be a crook and become a cop. So that was where I cut my teeth. That's where I really started to learn how that criminal mindset works and use my psychology degree to to help understand it, but also use the pure passion that I had for helping people,
Mm.
and my nature of trying to enhance people's lives to really just develop relationships with them. And I found that as long as there was this mutual understanding that I didn't disrespect you, even though I wore the badge,
Hmm.
uh, I didn't disrespect you, they would pay that back in return. Uh, and make no mistake about it, law enforcement in the jails, they've got a tough job and they are not in control. When I was in a dorm of 90 to 100 inmates, and I'm locked in there and they're locked in there. Uh, you know, if they really wanted to, they could overtake me, obviously, in a hurry. So understanding how to use the gift of gab and listen and communicate and respect, it was just a tremendous learning ground for me. Um, and I did well in there, and I got gangbangers, high profile gangbangers, to talk to me and tell me inner workings about their gang that they would probably never tell a police officer in a normal circumstance. But because of the relationship, they did, and then and so it's where I also really learned the benefit of mutual respect in relationships. So after about a year, I tested for patrol. I ranked number 2 on that list, so I was selected to go out to patrol. Spent a few years doing that. Absolutely loved it. Um, and I did find that for whatever reason, it was the more dynamic, uncertain, kind of crazier circumstances that I performed well in. I was able to keep my cool. I was able to really prioritize and execute. I was able to make proper decisions under stress. And so that kind of put me on the short list of guys that were being looked at for potentially joining the SWAT team. So after a few years, I was extended an opportunity to test, went through that very rigorous process of the selection process of that, and was fortunate enough to be selected. And so I did spend 5 years on the team as a SWAT entry operator. So everybody on the team's got different jobs and tasks. Mine was an entry guy. We had, of course, the breachers, mechanical breacher, explosive breacher. We have the sniper, observer. We've got the guy, the canine handlers, the TAC medics. But I was the entry guy. So when the door popped open, it was me and the small handful of others that would make that initial entry. And I absolutely loved it. My wife, not so much. A lot of times she would figure out where I was and what I was doing based on seeing it on the news. And so, yeah, man, I just ate it up. I learned, I grew, I learned a ton about, leadership, effective leadership, thinking and communicating and operating as a team, how ego can be catastrophic if not kept in check. Pride, the same thing. It just taught me a lot. And because I really embraced it, and I've always believed we should be a student. I was extended an opportunity to join the U.S. Marshal's Office, as you said, as a TFO, a guy who knows his business, because I can say TFO and you know what I mean. And so, yeah, I did that. And then a little short stint, about a year and a half, as an undercover narcotics detective. And that's eventually what led me into opening Forward Movement. So that's kind of my law enforcement career buttoned up.
Yeah, can we, man, there's so many life lessons there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because first off, I don't teach, coach, or train buy-in. So in that, usually it's what's called effective communication in our current industries, but also in the industries that you've ever been in, where creating buy-in to me is transactional. Winning hearts, minds, and souls is different. There's a respect factor there that you talked about. There's people don't give a shit what you know until they know how much you care. And in doing that, when you win the heart and mind of soul of people, you respect them, they respect you. Let's start there with winning hearts and minds, because obviously you had to navigate in 9 marriages and being in the pen with some fellas, right? That we on the outside. I think one of my first shocking things was when I went into a holding facility in LAPD. I just thought everybody was in jail as a civilian, right? But there were like dudes sitting on a bench, a dude in his drawers, laying down on the bench, handcuffed, right? And that just was like shocking, right? And then my guy who knows me, who's giving me the tour, is like, bro, you've been in the hood. Yeah, I've been in the hood, but never back here. Right. I've been out there on the streets. But so talk about that, like having to navigate and respect what you give, you get. Mm-hmm. And that winning the hearts and minds of people versus trying to demand what you want because of authority, or as a kid trying to navigate the relationships of your mom, because I mean, you got to figure it out, right? Yeah. While she was trying to figure that out. Talk to us about that, your communication style and winning hearts and minds. When I say that, what do you think?
Man, the first thing that comes to mind is that we're all human.
No
We
talk.
all are on this rock for a very, finite period of time. I mean, life is just a vapor, and you know, there are some people out there who are just bad people. I learned that in law enforcement. It's a very unfortunate fact, right? Like there's some communities that just have people with ill intent, and given the right opportunity, um, they will take advantage of it.
Right.
Uh, and those ones were actually the ones that were the most challenging for me to navigate through, because they represent a very small fraction of the
Right.
population, very, very small. But they're the ones that you almost want to help the most, because you just know what humanity is capable of if they will gravitate towards good, and if they will go through the whole decision making process and choose something that's healthy and choose something that will have greater impact. And for these ones with the criminal mindset, I would try to use my psychology training, but it's a bachelor's in psychology. You need a minimum of a master's or doctorate to really be able to tap into somebody's psyche and start trying to work through some trauma and get them to restructure their thinking process. But I would do what I could, and there were just some that I couldn't. So for those that I could, I just looked at it like this, man. There's a lot of people who they get addicted to different substances. There's a lot of
Mm.
people who have mental illness. There's no question that the mental health community and help centers are inadequate from the standpoint of where people with mental illness can go, so they don't break the law, and so that they don't continue to use drugs, and unfortunately a lot of them end up in jail. So when they're in jail, they're people that are struggling with various addictions or mental illness. That doesn't make them a bad person. It just means that they're not computing correctly. And so that would always be the top of mind for me in those conversations. And I'll tell you, I had a conversation I'll live with me forever. It was a lady that was addicted to methamphetamine. She'd lost her 3 kids, and she was talking to me about it. Now, when she's talking to me, I'm at the desk, the deputy's desk, and there's a big red line around the desk, and they're not allowed to cross that red line. They know it. It's a rule. Their toes cannot cross that red line, or else things can get, that's essentially, we're allowed to interpret that as an assault on us. And I'm talking to this lady, and she's creeping in, and she breaks the red line. But what she's telling me is different than what her body language is doing. She just needed to have a conversation, and she had lost her kids because of the pipe, because of her addiction to methamphetamine. So, to answer your question, is I look at everybody as human. I look at everybody that has massive potential, and it's like that starfish analogy. All those thousands of starfish on the shore. If I could just help that one, I may not be able to help them all, but if I can help that one, that's one that benefited. And I would just approach that with all of them that I came across. That's that everybody's got their own different reasons why they join law enforcement, but I just I love people.
Mm. And then, along with, if you could touch on this while you answer this question of what are the life lessons that you want to share, but especially from the perspective, because I'm a SoCal guy, and then moving to Idaho Falls in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
So we just went through there last summer. It's a
yeah,
lot different game than even when I last was there in maybe 2008, 2009 recruiting,
yeah.
at a time when I was a football coach. I mean, so what would be the life lessons you would share from that age? And then what about dealing with the environment, right? Because you and I talk to people about our environment, but what and who are we within will be reflected according to how we respond to the environment.
Yeah.
And you went from SoCal, right?
Mhm.
Where were you born in SoCal?
In San Mateo.
In Matteo, right? So Matteo, right by Stanford, off the 101 to Idaho Falls in the
Right.
early two. When were you there in Idaho Falls?
It was in the I graduated in 2000, so it would have been um, about 4 years, was probably 96 then.
Yeah, 90 something, right? So Idaho Falls didn't have the Starbucks I was talking about, right?
Right.
Probably not,
No.
right?
Oh,
And then
no.
there's all these car dealerships. They got all this new development there now as we just kind of rolled through there this past summer.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that like going from the Bay, you know,
Yeah.
and then going to Idaho Falls? And then what are the life lessons that you would share to any of the younger adults that may be watching of how to deal with new environments, uprooting all the time, and having to navigate as a young kid, how to make that all work for you?
Yeah. So the transition, it's funny. I remember we drove up there, and as we're driving, um, my mom and her husband at the time, who's where I got my last name from, who actually adopted us.
Mhm.
He's telling us, look, like indoor plumbing is coming soon. We're thinking within the next year to year and a half, the indoor plumbing will be here soon. You know, we do have we do have TVs, but like there's no like cable or anything. They were just messing with us, right? They were just
Right.
and so as we start getting into Idaho, we start seeing cows and horses and things on the side of the road. We're like, where are we going? Like,
Right,
what is it? What on the side of the road? There's a wire fence, and there's all this livestock. Like there's all these animals. Like
right.
you don't see that in California.
Yeah,
At least
especially not in San Mateo 101, right? Right there. You're
right.
down the
Yeah.
street from Palo Alto,
Yeah.
Hillsdale,
Right.
Menlo Atherton is one of the most prestigious, right? It's one of the
Yeah.
most prestigious suburbs to grow up in America, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting. They did a good job at setting our expectations really, really low.
Right.
Because when we did get there and there was indoor plumbing, there was cable television, we were pleasantly surprised. So I'll give them that. There was some good strategy in the way they did that. But as far as life lessons go, Coach, I would say that there's a lot of experiences to be had if you're
Mm,
if you're willing to look at it through the lens of having the experiences and embracing them, right? And so, I contribute the fact that I moved around so much, and by the way, we'll talk about the project later, but everybody has experiences in life that range on the trauma spectrum, right?
yes,
Some of
sir.
them are, not so much. It's just a disruption to like really significant, impactful events, and those things that happen to us have a way of um, altering the way we think about things and perceive things and process them, and uh, it's only a matter of really restructuring it to see it as a superpower. So one of the superpowers that I would say I got from all this moving around and ending up in Idaho Falls from Cali was the fact that I'm comfortable anywhere,
That's
and
great to
I
talk.
can, yeah, I mean I don't get uncomfortable anywhere, and I also have this it's always going to work out mindset. Like I always know that if I had to if I lost my job today, if things as I know it today stopped, I know I'll figure it out, and I will get target locked on the next opportunity, and it will be all right. And I think that's one of the superpowers that came from it. I also am very comfortable in developing relationships and meeting new people and really embrace those opportunities too. So, you know, the there's something to be said about being dynamic and the ability to free flow through life's events, because we all end up in peaks, we all end up in valleys, and you got to be able to navigate through it without it being so disruptive to you, and it's just a way of thinking about it. So I would say that was one of the main things that I learned from it. Not and two, not to get too comfortable in anything. Like there's a lot of through through too much comfort, there's no growth, right? If
Mm,
you're comfortable, you're not growing. And so all this moving around really made me uncomfortable a lot of times. New schools, new teachers, this and that. Well, through all that discomfort came a lot of growth, and I'm very thankful for it.
wow. And then talk about your college experience and what some life lessons might be from there. You know, you were with the Bengals for a little bit, right? Idaho State.
Yeah.
And then, you came over to the Blue during a very good time, and you were in Boise during the prime time years of
Yeah.
maybe one of the most amazing times to be in Boise,
Mhm.
just as a sports fan, not having a professional team. What were some of the experiences in college that you like to share, some life lessons, success frameworks, or as a psychology major, what are some behavioral mental models or behavioral models that helped you, and in hindsight going, hey, I didn't realize this, or I knew this and this is the way I approached it? Anything like that, Matt?
Yeah, man. So it, it's fine. First of all, when it comes to Boise State, it was 100% easy to be a football fan during
Yeah,
those
yeah.
100%. I didn't really know much about football at all, but man, could I wear that blue and orange because we were just on that multi-year winning streak. The first lesson, it's kind of funny. The first lesson I really learned was that college wasn't free. And
Oh, I love that.
and and I mean that in a couple of different ways. The first way is literally it wasn't free. I was so ill prepared, coach, uh, leaving high school because of that movement, because of just the dynamics of what was going on. I enrolled in Idaho State University, got about a month or so in, and then I got a call from the registrar's office, and they said, "Hey, how exactly do you plan on paying for your tuition?"
Right,
What do you mean? And like, well, yeah, there is actually an expense to this. I'm like, it's not like high school.
right.
And
Exactly.
so I had to go apply for some emergency student loans, was approved for those. But that's the level of of ill preparedness I was, but also how willing I was to just jump into opportunity and what I believed in, even
Mm,
at that age. And and so you know, it was interesting because going through the program in law enforcement, I didn't experience the typical college years from the standpoint of the parties and the dorms and stuff. I mean, it was very structured. We were there to learn a profession right out the gate, and so I learned right away how to start caring for myself and start thinking like a professional. And so that was very valuable to me. But when I transferred over to Boise State, um, and uh, and started going there, I got to experience a little bit more of the traditional college life, and um, you know, it was at that point that I realized how easy it is to quit,
oh yeah,
um, and if
yeah.
and how tempting it was to throw in the towel when things got hard. And thankfully, I met my now bride at that time, and she was also a college student, and so she helped keep me on track, keep me from getting in trouble, and um, and so I owe a lot of gratitude to her for that. But I changed my uh, my focus from criminal justice to psychology halfway through, and it was because I had good advisors. But you know, I had a relatively you know unexciting, non-exciting college um, experience, you might say. But it taught me a lot of lessons about putting in the work. I missed a final at one point. Went through all the whole semester. Missed the final because I wasn't managing my time well, and had it on my calendar incorrectly. And so I had to redo that entire class again. Boy, did that teach me a lesson, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, a lot of lessons, man. College is great.
Yeah. And you talk about your wife, and I met you when you were with your wife, and I
Yeah,
feel like you two are very similar to Martha and I and the kids, because we really do. When prior to COVID, especially, we would normally go everywhere together.
yeah,
Other than, I think I met you two the first time when I was coming in from Hawaii. I stopped by here to have dinner with the family, then flew over to Boise, and handled some accounts out that way. And then,
mhm,
but you guys are always together. I often talk about that the number one, and especially the college kids, is like, don't be casual with your romantic relationships,
Mm.
because one misstep could be drama for the rest of your life.
Oh
And
yeah.
not to downplay, uh, trying to find the right person or not, but to me, no one in my adult life has had a bigger impact and influence, and has been an encourager than my wife. My mom and dad, no doubt,
Yeah.
prior to leaving for college and being in high school, they still resonate in me, and you could see me in how I speak and do culture. But my wife, what about for you? Can you talk about the special relationship? You just alluded to it already, helped you kind of focus up, guide you. You raised your level of awareness of what's important, learned some life lessons, and figured it out together. Anything like that, Matt, that you could share with us about success in marriage,
Yeah, dude.
choosing the right spouse, and then making it work, right?
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah. So, you know, with my upbringing, and having the experience that I did with, this constant changing of the guards in the father figure role, um, I determined real early on that you know, one day I'll have kids and I will never put them through that.
Mm,
It was it was something that, it really messes with your understanding of what marriage is and what it's meant to be, right? And
right.
so there's a lot of lessons learned, and again, it's all how you look at things. Like the superpower that came from it, and God bless my mom. She is a wonderful woman. She picked the wrong guys, and but she would do absolutely anything for us kids. We there was no shortage of unconditional love from my
Right.
mom. um, and but the superpower in seeing this was that, um, I can put things in compartments when they need to be in compartments, and allow things that otherwise might be disruptive, um, help me learn and grow, but not um, throw me off track of what my goals are.
Right.
And so with my wife, I knew that when I found the one that was going to be the one, um, it was going to be the one, and I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. I knew that it was going to take a lot of work. So that commitment that we made to each other, it's something that's not taken lightly. And now that we have our son, it just reinforces it, every day when I see him and he has us as a family unit. And I'm just reminded about it constantly. And I just absolutely love being his dad and being there for him, every single day, and having my wife be there as well. And um and she's such an instrumental part in helping me grow, because she's every bit as involved in the personal development, professional development for herself, to where we balance each other out really well. If it was just up to me, I'm all gas all the time. I would
Right.
drive
Right.
myself off of a cliff at 300 miles an hour.
Right. Right. Right.
I need her brakes to keep
Right.
me from, doing things. And then she needs my gas to help her achieve things that otherwise her risk adverse ways would not necessarily have her do. So we're a great balance for each other.
No, that's awesome. So you graduate, you go into law enforcement. You've touched on all of the things you did in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Now you transition into being in law enforcement, but starting a company. Talk us through that, and what exactly was that like, the mindset and the willingness to start,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, in the jail, there were all these people that, everybody talks about it, but can you be about it, right?
Right.
Real talk, right?
Right.
And then you were the second ranked guy
Mhm.
in the prison that now could have an opportunity to go on patrol. So
Sure.
you're about it. And then now you got your dream job. You start climbing and doing SWAT, and then you're going into, U.S. Marshals, right? Like you're the dude that's chasing Wesley Snipes in the U.S. Marshals, right? I mean, that's you.
And we
That's like,
talked too.
what an adventure. And then now you're thinking, okay, I think I'm gonna transform. What was that like mentally, and then actually putting in the action?
Yeah, man. So I tell people I am an accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah.
So I actually didn't have the entrepreneurial spirit to the point where I wanted to step away from all of those things that I had accomplished. But there was an opportunity that that I had because my family for many years, 30 some odd years, owned a company in San Francisco. It had a pretty good sized building on Market Street, and
Wow.
yeah, and the
I
development,
mean, downtown San Francisco, I know where that is.
yeah, Market Street, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was getting to the point where they were redeveloping that area, rejuvenating the area.
Uh-huh.
It got to the section where our family's building was, and um, there was just an opportunity and an offer that was made that uh, it would have been silly to decline.
Right.
So it was accepted, and so my mom was like, hey, we got this money, and I believe in you. I've seen what you can do. I've seen your track record. If I'm going to invest some
This
of
is
this money,
mom's. Mom's is telling you now.
correct, yeah,
Right.
yeah. So she said, if I want to invest some of this money, I'd love to invest it in you. I believe in you. So that got the wheels turning. Naturally, I'm thinking, well, what do I know well? What could I offer to the community that I could solve problems and the kinds of problems that people would be willing to exchange money for? And that led me to the forward movement training model, which essentially was just a real big building, a 30,000 square foot building inside, 20 more thousand outside, and it was set up like a scenario village in there. You walked in, it looks like you were on a movie set of some sort. There was a home, there was a bank, there was vehicles, a couple other structures, and there a shooting simulator, a classroom, and so I thought, well, let me put this thing together. I've got numerous contacts in the law enforcement, the government world, and I'm sure I could put some of those together pretty easily. Um, and of course, there's a pretty sizable Second Amendment community in that area as well. There are a lot of people that have the tools, they have the weapon, but they lacked the training because they lacked a place to really get training.
Right.
And so I blended the two together. It was one of a very few across the country, and we just had a kick in the pants time with it, man. The first couple of years were real rough. I had no business experience, no marketing experience, no experience in being an entrepreneur, but I did have a figured out mindset. I did have the background with understanding the significance of leadership and the importance of having that and teamwork and those kinds of things. So it took me a couple years to figure it out, and those were a couple of rough years. But into our third year, we finally got it. And just so you know, it was, when I said we got it, it was because I figured myself out that I was a poor leader, is really what it was.
Mm.
I understood the significance of leadership. I just wasn't effectively leading. I had a great team, great business model, great everything. I just sucked as a leader. And so, during the first couple of years, I'm pointing fingers at everything else, but wasn't looking in the mirror. And as soon as I did, everything changed. And so we helped out, thousands of people over the 5 years that I owned it, from all four corners of the United States, numerous government contracts. We just had an absolute kick in the pants with it. And then in 2019, I was ready to take an exit. I had my fill at that point. I had 10 years of the tactics world between SWAT and then the business, and I was just ready for something new. And I had grown the business to a point to where it was just time to take an exit. Every entrepreneur understands to some degree you should always start with an end in mind. So I chunked it up. I took the scenario village part. I approached the sheriff's office, and I asked their leadership team what they would think about that becoming their essentially their training headquarters for the department. And we had some talks about that, and ended up being able to pull that deal together. And today it is still the training grounds over there in Boise. And it's a really cool, really satisfying thing to know that the Ada County Sheriff's Office has that as their home for training, and they pull in people from all over the Western United States to come train there, and that the law enforcement community and the communities they serve are better off for it. So it's a really cool feeling that I have when I think back on that. On the civilian side, I found a guy who was a longtime contractor with the CIA that was ready to start or stop that deployment and start something new. And we were able to successfully sell that so he could acquire it. And that takes me to when I was offered the opportunity to join Fit Body Boot Camp.
So then now you're going from the Boise 208, one of the most highly ranked places to live and grow a family,
Yeah.
in the United States of America, hands down, right? And all the publications, not because Coach V says so either. These are all the publications out there that says fastest growing metropolitan area, best place to start a business, and then now you're rolling to SoCal,
Yeah.
right? And then how was that like talking about like uprooting from a place like that that's all about Second Amendment, Second Amendments, right? It's a red state,
That's
right? To come over here to a blue state in Cali that most of law enforcement are running from. And then how was it making your family buy into that? And then the opportunity, that you had with a guy like Bedros, because that was the thing that got me about you, is that you met me and everything you said about you, about being dynamic, being able to have the gift of gab, but you wanted to serve. You're like, man, I need to connect you with Bedros. I need to connect you with this guy. And you emailed me with like 3 other people, right? And we just now are starting to make those connections, right? But you were trying to serve like from the back. You didn't ask anything of me. All you were like, hey man, I need to help you because you got some juice. And so how did that turn out? You're selling your business and now you're going to uproot and you're used to it. But now talk about, the family dynamics. That's a different deal now, right? It's like you're moving to SoCal. Where are you now? You in Chino Hills area?
Chino Hills, yep.
Yeah, so I know that area when Chino Hills was just like farmland, right? Back when I was growing up there, and I left in '99 to go to school in Davis. How was that like? Talk us through the mindset of seeing a new opportunity, right? You're getting a pension from your former jobs, right?
Yeah.
And so why would you? And what's the whole mindset and approach for excellence and trying to be your best? What's the new dream? Talk about all that, please, Matt.
Yeah, man. So, it's tied into Forward Movement because I met Bedros at Forward Movement. He was there with a handful of others. And I'd never heard of him before, never heard of Fit Body Boot Camp before, but there was just something about him that intrigued me. And John Maxwell wrote a book called Leadership, and in that book he talks about the differences in authority. And we have positional authority, you have moral authority, and so there was something that just kind of stood out to me about Bedros having moral authority. And so I started looking into him, and he's very prominent on social media.
Yes.
And I was just very I was very kind of almost taken back about how transparent he was about everything. He wrote a book called Man Up, and I read his book, and he talks about everything from him being molested as a child through the struggles of his early entrepreneurial days to having to go see a therapist to work through it, to now owns multiple 7 and 8 figure businesses, and
all over the country.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All over the country and Canada, all over the place. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And the fact that he put it out there, it really impressed me, because people the real deal will talk about it.
That's
right. They don't have anything to prove to anybody because they just are who they are. And I really appreciated that about him. And so as I looked into him more, we we started having conversations. He brought his son up there, who is becoming a teenager, along with about a dozen other people to forward movement. And we did this like rite of passage kind of thing, where he was very intentional about pouring into his son and having the other men that he brought with him pour into his son, and do what we've seen in historical times, where there's this rite of passage from a boy to a man, and when a boy goes from his mother's son to his father's son, right? And it was very impactful. And so that's how him and I got to meet. We would just engage a little bit more. And then on the tail end of forward movement, I reached out to him and we just started having some conversations. And he invited me down to have a conversation about joining the team. And he made an offer, and it was a great opportunity. Based on my background, I have no concerns about packing up and moving. I had never been before that, and I didn't know much of anything about it, but I'm just comfortable packing up and moving. Now, my wife, she's the brakes, remember, and so there was a conversation there, but ultimately, because of our relationship, because of the trust that she has in me, based on my track record in showing her that family is first, and I will always take care of the family. And because I have, a history of that, she 100% trusted me, and she didn't give me any pushback, and she was all on board. Of course, she was nervous, and but it's been great, man. I'm coming up on 2 years in May that we've been down here. We love being close to the ocean. Unfortunately, Carter, our son, when he moved up, it was during the summertime. He'd just gotten out of school. So I was really looking forward to starting school in 2020, to start meeting some friends and things. And
Right.
as we know, school has been canceled for the last 2 years. And so he's just now getting back into it. But that poor kid, he's got a very small little cluster of other kids that he even knows, because there hasn't been any sports, there hasn't been any activities, everything's closed. So he's really taken the biggest brunt of it. And my wife and I have just been very intentional about being his best friend, and kind of filling that as much as we can. And so we play a lot of Nintendo Switch, the Mario Kart stuff, and the riding the bikes and the working out and that kind of thing. But yeah, they went along with it. It's been a great transition. We love the current chapter that we're in. It's been incredible, the eye-opening experience that we've had in the growth. There's something very, very powerful about being in close proximity with others who are like-minded on a mission to dominate life, and so it's been great.
Yeah, and then I mean, you're 32 miles from downtown LA. You're 2 hours from Vegas, 2 hours from Big Bear, hour and a half, if that. If you take the toll bridges over to Newport, you could be there in 45, 50 minutes. You got Disneyland, Magic Mountain, Universal Studios, you got Hollywood. I mean, that's home for me. I live in Elk Grove, California. I call this home. I love this city that I'm in. But boy, when I come over the Grapevine on the 5 and drop in by Magic Mountain, man, I just feel like I'm home.
Yeah.
Right. It's such an amazing geographic area. And I mean, you moved there, the Dodgers win the World Series. The Lakers switch leadership 3 years ago. Now Jeannie Buss brings LeBron 2 years, 3 years later. I mean, you move there and we start winning championships. I'm like, man, Matt moves there. What's up with that? I mean, isn't that just even with COVID?
Yeah.
I mean, the myriad of food down there.
Yeah.
Right. And the mesh of diversity and the geographic region. Touch on that, and then we're going to move on and let you really tell us your message for the world and what exactly you want everybody to know about what you're doing, Bedros is doing, and what the whole team has in store for the world. But before that, you love SoCal like that? Ain't it? It was like 80-something degrees down there, wasn't it?
It took us all but probably 20 minutes to get our season passes to Disneyland when we moved down here.
Right.
Yeah. So it was the coolest experience, because we love Idaho. We have some very dear friends now. Idaho is beautiful. There's a reason why it's growing at the rate that it's growing.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, man, we are so close to Disneyland that I would get off work 5 o'clock, go home, you know, get the boy and the wife, and we'd shoot over to Disneyland, and we would do one or maybe two rides and just walk around, see the laser show or whatever, and just call it. And it was just, it was awesome.
So
And
you ride off the 60 or 71?
71.
So you hit 71 to the 60 West, hit the 57, exit Catella, right?
You're there. Yeah. We would even go to the beach, start in the morning, go to the beach, have a half day at the beach, load up, go to Disneyland, and then pop over to the house, man. And so, yeah, you know, the state is incredible. Chino Hills is reminds me a lot of actually Meridian, because Chino Hills is a very conservative little area. And it's a pocket community the same way Meridian is a pocket community to the Boise.
Yeah, that Eagle Meridian right there, right? Got all those nice shopping centers, got restaurants all right there off the 71 and the 60, right?
Yeah, that's it, man. And it's a beautiful state, and like you said, it's got tons to offer. Now, you know, I mean, leave it to humanity to start messing with things that are just gold, right? And and then the politics to mess with things. But it's a great place to live. And we're having a great time with it.
Okay, for all of the Idaho folks that are watching that think they know what traffic is, tell them about traffic down there. I mean, there's 7-point-something million people per county down there, right? Talk to the Idahoans who are like, man, I should move down there. Before you think the Eagle Boulevard exit and going where, you know, Meridian, it goes from 2-lane to like country lanes, 1 lane each way like that. Talk to them about the traffic in SoCal.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, people told me you don't measure you don't measure one point A to point B in miles. You measure in time.
Always time.
Always time. And because point A to point B, depending on the time, could be 30 minutes, it could be 3 hours.
Yes.
Now, point A and point B didn't get any further apart.
That's right.
So, you know, we are very intentional. So our office is in Chino Hills. We live, work, and play here. When we leave Chino Hills, we are very intentional about the time in which we go and
opposing traffic.
Correct. Yeah, we have figured that out. And when we have friends that want to come into town, you know, they say they're going to fly into LAX. We're like, okay, if you fly in at this time, you might as well just stay there. Just stay there, hang out, enjoy, find some food.
If it's the evening, don't go east on any one of the freeways.
No,
10 freeway, 60, 91, right? You just don't go east.
Yeah. So
in the morning, don't go west unless you have to, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, traffic is bonkers, and I don't you know, I could see why people could lose their minds if they spend a lot of time on the road.
That's right. That's right.
So I can sympathize with them, but yeah, man. All that to be said, you know, it's all pros and cons. There's a lot of pros here too.
No doubt, man. It's. I mean, Diego, Vegas, Big Bear, Newport, Santa Monica. I mean, driving distance.
Yeah.
Right. I could go on and on and on about the places that I love down there. So Matt, what's your message to the world? What do you want to make sure the world knows about what you and Bedros are doing down there and the entire team for that fact? And what are some shout outs that you got going on? What you got?
Yeah, man, I would say, you know, we have a passion project. It's called The Project, actually. And it's an incredible thing. You briefed it up in the intro, and it's something that Bedros, being the visionary that he is, helped kind of structure. But it's got myself, it's got Ray Cash Cares, a former Navy SEAL, it's got Aaron, who is a lifelong martial artist and kind of a shaman of the group. We got Steve, who's a former Marine, and then, you know, Bedros, who's just this empire building visionary, you know, top tier leader. The five of us.
That's your team right there, huh? That's the team.
Yeah, the five of us really created from the ground up the project, and it's a 75-hour development program for men. And
I've seen it. I've seen
yeah,
it.
the videos are out there, and it's about bringing together men. And we do classes about 30. We do them every other month. Classes of 30 guys who know that they're capable of more in their guts. They just know it. But that flame that they once had, that inferno for life, and that belief system that they had and confidence, it went somewhere, and they're not sure where it went, and they're not sure how to get it back. Uh, but what they know is they're not leading their family the way they want to. They're not having the kind of impact on the world the way they want to. They're not making the kind of money. They're not donating the way they want to, and they find themselves in this kind of funk of life, and this place where they just don't see a way out of it, and so they're willing to do something drastic
And a
to.
lot of them are drowning by being ineffective, inefficient, not being focused, right?
Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah,
They're like overwhelmed. And then they come there, and what happens? Because what I've
dude,
seen has been pretty remarkable.
yeah. It's incredible. So it is a very intensive, very methodical process, where, as the videos will show, it's like Hell Week that's boiled down into 75 hours. So
Right.
Ray Care, took his knowledge in his career as a Navy
From the
SEAL.
SEALs, right?
Yep.
Because that's what I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're at the beach, we're in the pit, we're in the ice baths, we're carrying logs, and it's all designed, coach, to wear these guys down to a point to where we purposely cause an us versus them thing, where we want them
Come
to
together.
to form the bond
Yes.
together.
Yeah.
And we want the us instructors to be on the other side of the fence, and this is where the strength is, because at some point during the project, about halfway through, we do what's called a hunt and destroy exercise. And what that exercise is really going through the negative cognitions that all of us have. And there's a question on there that most people, but especially most men, because most men are like, they're emotionally constipated, right? They just stuff down the bad feelings. They don't want to talk about it, and it's like, if I don't look at the monster room, the monster doesn't exist. Well, guess what, fellas? The monster's there, and if
It's
you don't deal
cancer,
with it,
right? Come on, Matt. It's a cancer.
it's cancer. It's
Right?
cancer, and it's disruptive to the family. It's disruptive to the relationships. It causes divorce. It causes suicidal thoughts or suicide altogether. It causes bankruptcy. All of the things that we hope and pray we don't experience. Not dealing with the trauma and not dealing with the emotions, it leads to that stuff. It can be tied to it, and so we want to get that out. We want to get it out. So we do the negative cognition thing. They're asked a question: what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? And probably about 80% of the time, coach, we hear people say, I've never shared this with anybody before in my life, not even my wife. The one person that you would think they would share it with, they haven't known how to share it with them, and they haven't been willing to share it with them out of fear of being judged or humiliated, or whatever the case is. But it just got the weight of the world on them, so they share it, and all of a sudden, once somebody verbalizes something, it's almost like the pressure valve has just been opened up, right?
Right.
Um, and then when they hear everybody else share too, then it's like, I'm not alone here. Like, I'm not weird. I'm not broken. Uh, I'm not a cancer. I have a cancer that needs to be dealt with. And then we go through the process of helping them figure out how to turn those things that had happened into the superpowers.
That's right.
So show them that because this happened, you are incredible here. You have massive potential here. You may not have realized it, but the way that you parent, the way that you lead, the way that you do this, and this is directed to this by this. and you just didn't even know it. This is your superpower over here. So we completely restructure and reframe. And this all came from a psychologist that helped build this process. And it's something that Bedros went through when he was going through therapy. And it's remarkable, man, because it's like this, it's like through the process of them doing things that they've never done before, the kind of work they put in over the 75 hours, the kind of miles they put in, the kind of stuff they're forced to do and lead and give feedback and receive feedback. There's so many experiences that they've never done before, on top of being freed from this weight internally, this cancer internally, and then learning how it's a superpower. The person on the other side at graduation that comes with us to dinner in a black suit in a private room and joins the brotherhood, that person is a completely different person.
Transformation, right? Metamorphosis, transformation.
Yeah. And it's incredibly part of you don't get over the letters that come from the wives and from the families that say, I'm not 100% sure what happened, but thank you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Don't get over it. You saved my marriage. You saved this. You saved. I got my husband back. The guy that I originally dated, the one that I fell in love with, is back. And man, we're just on a mission to just change as many men's lives as we can, so that they can show up the way they want to for their families, for their wives, for their kids, for their communities.
That's amazing. Shout outs. So you already mentioned some of your team. You mentioned Bedros. You mentioned our Navy SEAL, your Marine guys. Anybody else that you want to shout out? And then what is a final phrase or a final message, 1 minute, that you have to tell the world? Matt Schneider says and thinks this.
Yeah, man. So as far as shout outs goes, listen, I am a firm believer that nobody ever creates anything really substantial by themselves. We can have a certain amount of impact and influence alone, but together, we can move mountains, and we can create legacies that will live on forever. And so I have an incredible team at Fit Body, wonderful leaders that work under this roof. Of course, our team of project instructors, my wife, and there's just so many, man. I just have so much support. But as far as like my thoughts goes is, I am a firm believer that every person has always retains the power and control to change their circumstances. No matter what season of life we are in, we always have that power and control to change the circumstances. But in order to make that change, there may needs to be significant change that happens. And so the first thing to do is to cut out the things that aren't serving you. It could be the diet. It could be you're not getting the exercise you need. You're not getting the sleep you need. It could be the relationships that you have, long-standing relationships that are just not creating the atmosphere and environment that you need, the mental space that you need to achieve your full potential. Cutting those things out is very challenging. It takes a lot of intentionality. It takes a lot of discipline to do that. But when people free themselves of the things, the people, the vices that are holding them back, literally the world is at their fingertips.
Right.
And they can achieve anything, they can have anything, they can donate anything that they want. It just takes doing the things required to make it happen. And if I could do anything in this world, it would be to empower everybody and have them understand that, and then be willing to do the work to do it, because what's on the other side of it is incredible.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that message, Matt. I got one question for you on the Coach V hot seat, because we're out of time. This hour went by so fast. So we're down to one question to putting Matt Schneider on the Coach V hot seat, where I'm going to say one phrase and say a statement, and then Matt will give us his thoughts on that. So Matt, when I say we all go to school and we take the lesson first, and then we take the test. But in life, leadership, and business, becoming the best versions of ourselves, we take the test first, and that test teaches us the lesson. Your thoughts?
That's a good one, Coach. That's a good one. Listen, I would say life is not designed to be easy. Everything in life trends towards death. Every living thing trends towards destruction and death. That's just the natural cycle of living. And there is impossible to reach self-actualization without coming head to head with adversity, being tested, finding what our limits are, getting knocked down, and then being head to head with the decision: do we get up or do we give in? And there are lessons on the other side of both of those decisions.
Sure.
One of the heaviest things we'll ever carry in life is regret. And so when life does test us and it throws something at us that sometimes is so significant we were completely unprepared for, there was no way we could have done anything to ready ourselves for it. We must get back up, and we must embrace the opportunity to learn from it and grow from it, and then be that much better on the other side of it. But we will be tested. We are constantly being tested, and for those that do get up, stand tall, grow and learn, and come back for more, those are the ones that achieve the most, I feel.
That's right. Now that's powerful. Thank you for those insights. And thank you so much, brother Matt Schneider, for coming on the Coach V Show, broadcast from Hollywood, California. You'll also catch us every Monday night on Dash Radio on Island City. You could tune in from there, and also on my Coach V Facebook Live, and also on YouTube. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll be able to see these shows each and every Monday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please like, subscribe, and tell me what it is that you think I should be asking guests. Should I miss something? And if you like something, holler at your boy. Put that in the comments as well. And then also catch this episode on the Tuesday. So we're releasing it. It's Monday night. And then it will be released on Spotify for the Coach V podcast from your boy, Matt Schneider, and your boy, Coach V. Thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. And lastly, I do want to just touch on the fact of everything it is that Matt is saying I subscribe to, and that if you would change, everything will change for you. If you get better, everything will get better for you. Not because Coach V or Matt Schneider says anyway. I mean, it's not because we say it. That's how freaking life, leadership, and business works. And the caveat is just what he already alluded to and touched to throughout this entire show. That change is not like cutting out with the scissors of your little kindergartner. It's gonna freaking hurt. You're going to bleed, and you will need time to heal from that change. It will be the hardest thing that you'll ever mother freaking do, is to change to achieve something great, or to tap into your joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, love, and family time. People call that sacrifice. People call it change. Those are all semantics. But for Matt and I, we believe, and those are what our thoughts are on that. So it is important for each of us to be the best that we can be, not just for the sake of achieving success, but for the sake of being our best. In doing so, we realize the best of our abilities, and that everything and anything that we dream and will freaking work for will be achieved. This is how this success coach, keynote speaker, author, and Hollywood radio show host lives, all about faith and family, grateful for God's amazing grace. From your boy, from Fit Body, say your Fit Body Boot Camp.
Yeah.
right? Boot camp, Matt Schneider and your boy Coach V, right here on the Coach V Show from Dash Radio Studios, Hollywood, California, on Island City, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. Until next time, it is your boy Matt Schneider and your boy Coach V. One love, mad respects always. Peace.